Good morning. I'm here today with Alex Chaia, an old friend. Alex is a fund manager, a systematic trader, an author. I have one of his old books in front of me here, Spot Futures and Options, Cryptocurrencies, and,
Very
and,
nice. Good morning,
and
friend. How
regular
are you?
currency. Hey, Alex, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you spending some time.
Nice to be here.
Yeah. So, I know you've been in the markets forever and you're still heavily involved. Alex quotes into the Brazilian markets. He's a futures, I guess you would say, ARB manager, or how would you classify yourself?
Yeah, it's market making mostly,
Market making.
and it's the Brazilian real is one of the currencies, no doubt, but also euro, pounds, Japanese yen,
Yeah.
futures, options, forwards,
Yeah.
swaps, you name it. Those are instruments I trade and I quote mostly for other people to trade.
Right. Right.
So, with the objective of providing stable markets with reliable liquidity for whoever wants to hedge a position or speculate, and
Right.
yeah, so
You provide the market.
absolutely.
Um, so So, I've been talking with my brother Tim, an old friend, Professor Matt Lifson, who's I've worked with in the past, and we've been talking a little bit about markets, what the election is going to mean in the U.S. to these markets. You're based in London now. What's the European thought on the election and where we're heading and what's going on with interest rates and equities and everything else?
Well, there is much talk about what's going to happen with the debt of the United States. I think that's the main concern on how the budget, how expenses will and how the taxes will change the national debt and impact the rest of the world, right? So when you have,
And that's regardless of who wins the election. I
well,
believe.
yeah, I think that's what everyone is trying to balance. What it means, like if Harris wins, does that mean that the working people will be less taxed, but then business will be more taxed, and how would that affect? And when Trump is mentioned, the concerns about the tariffs, right? What are the tariffs on China do with inflation and disinflation? How it will drive the yield curve? I think that's what I've been hearing most fund managers talking about and concerned about. Yeah.
Yeah, the tax implications are certainly going to affect the equity markets next year. My concern, and you and I have spoke about it privately, is the amount of debt that we have now that's got to be funded. Who's going to come in and buy this debt? Trump has talked about devaluing the dollar. I don't know what Harris's position is on the dollar. I don't know if she's really announced that, but a weaker dollar. I think we're going to have a weaker dollar going forward. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a tough nut to crack. Where is it going? Because the reality is, if you look in the world right now, right, it's the real GDP growth. It's in the United States. You see. I don't see the same levels of growth in the European economies or even in Asia. So China is in some sort of stagnation. So when you see real equity, real GDP growth, that's still coming from the United States, and that is dollar bullish, isn't it?
Yeah, but you're talking about funding this debt with a devalued dollar.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so um,
Wait,
I,
yeah. So are taxes going to contribute to pay for that debt somehow, or is it just going to increase? And if you raise tariffs, how does that impact inflation? So
And
it's a lot of
you know,
questions in the air.
I've had this conversation with other people as well. Do you are you really fearful of tariffs, or do you think that's just his opening negotiation, and that's going to be his point to threaten tariffs and then step all the way back on it?
Good question. Good question. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of competition coming from China industries and electric vehicles, which they are producing vehicles that have longer range. And the conversion to electric in China has been massively, the adoption has been much quicker than anywhere else. And and must be potentially part of the government that kinds of explain
Yeah.
how tariff would be an interesting instrument. How that affects inflation, I think that's the big question. Um,
Yeah, can we
Interest
grow
rates.
ourselves? Can we grow ourselves in the U.S. out of this debt? That's the focal point. That's the real question that nobody really has a handle on how to answer. Can we grow us? I don't think we can. You know,
I think you're right. I think it's beyond the point of no return, isn't
right,
it?
right,
So I think not in this generation.
right. And not in our lifetime.
Yeah, I
And
think that's the bottom line. It has been growing so fast and it's so big, right?
in the last 40 plus years that I've been in the market, seen the debt explode, seeing the deficits explode, and we continue. My brother had he's said many times, we used to say tax and spend, then we said borrow and spend, and now the U.S. is in print and spend. At
Mm,
some point, you got to stop spending. you know, that's the problem, and it's going to take a tough politician to do that.
yeah.
Um,
I just wonder as well, and that's a question that I don't really trade on that question, but
mhm.
it's the seigniorage of the US dollar as a currency for the world, right? Of course, you have the Russians trying to create some sort of BRICS and secondary
Right.
currencies for all trades between Russia, China, Brazil, rest of the world, which ha- is that something that would impact the world, and change how the ability of the treasury to issue dollars or issue bonds and have buyers all the time,
Well, I think as long as there's sanctions, it's going to be very difficult to get that off the ground in a way. And I think none of the countries, to my knowledge, and you would probably know better, involved in BRICS has a capital markets a capital market that would be able to fund that. That's been one of the benefits of the U.S. is we have a very strong capital market that we can uh, we
Yeah.
can grow that way.
Interesting enough, it's a conversation I just had today, Fred, about the Chinese offshore, the CNH currency
Hmm.
pair. This has been growing very quickly in the futures market in the CME, and it reached like 5,000 contracts open interest. I also have been receiving communications from Singapore Exchange with the growth of the USD CNH contract, and that is starting to be priced all across the ECNs, all the venues, as one of the top
So a lot more liquid, huh?
pairs. Yeah, it's almost joining the league of the majors already in terms of volume. It's definitely more than the Scandies already.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
it's
interesting.
interesting, isn't it? Because I still see it as a, as a managed currency, right? It's a dirty float.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting to see this happening. So maybe you'll see more people trading Chinese yuan.
Well, I I read some articles that talks about investments in China, and at the end of these articles, the author always says, "But be wary of investing in China because the government can, close down, can change the
Mm.
rules at any time." So maybe investing in the currency is a better solution if it's a liquid and tradable, viable currency.
Yes, yes.
What's your thoughts on the rest of the European economies and the political system in the rest of Europe?
Well, this week we have the budget in the UK. That that's all over the news. There's a lot of concerns about that on taxation for the rich is increasing, will increase, and that can be potentially damaging to the business environment here. Although our prime minister thinks that this will actually help business. I think there are many people that are not sure about it. But it's still to be seen what will be the measures in place. Not to forget that when Liz Truss and they started talking about budget and what was the plan for finances, this is the moment when the opposition was so strong that they couldn't stand for another week, you know.
Right, right.
So I think that's a very sensitive topic here in the UK. That yeah, yeah,
I remember when the new prime minister, I forget his name, is that
yeah.
probably Keir
Here's time. Yeah,
Steimer? When he was first elected, there was a lot of pushback on some of the things that he was advocating. Is that still the case, or are people getting a little bit more comfortable with him?
it looks like there's more dialogue with business going on
Yeah,
at the moment. Yeah. But the problem is when you announce that well taxation will get worse.
that's right.
And
You don't make friends.
no, no, and no one waits for it.
Right.
So yeah, I think we've seen a lot of outflows and business moving to all sorts of places, for to Ireland, to Dubai, to Italy, wherever they could find a better deal, as soon as possible. So there's an element of convincing them to come back.
What do you think about Brazil as an investment opportunity? I was involved in the Argentina ETF, not the ETF, but one of the oil companies in Argentina.
YPF.
And yeah, YPF, yes, and that worked out very well. And I don't know, do you think that Milei is going to continue to succeed and continue to grow in a positive way?
Yeah, he's been fighting corruption. He's been, uh, taking down a lot of excessive costs that the government machine had.
Hmm.
A friend of mine used to work for the national TV company in Argentina, kind of the BBC of Argentina. And this was not even Milei, this was before when Mauricio Macri,
Right.
uh, took charge, and they needed to do a head count of how many people were employed there. And this is a massive building in Buenos Aires. And so like everybody comes to the office. We need to do a head count. We need to talk to everyone, see what you guys do, and see who stays and who goes. They said nobody could get in the building. There were so many people. People like, oh,
No
I've been
room for
employed here
him.
for 20 years. Nobody asked me to go a single day.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, I think he's cutting a lot of these
I remember
inefficiencies.
the famous video of him. I guess it was a news conference with the whiteboard
Yeah,
crossing out all of the cabinet positions. Get rid of it. Get rid
yeah,
of it.
yeah, and that was much needed, and plus Argentina reached such a rock bottom, right? That in some ways the only way is up.
Right. Right. Unless he
There's
gets
no way back.
pushback, unless he's unable to continue. If you start to cut so many people, sooner or later you're
Yeah,
not making friends anymore.
look, a lot of people are struggling there. You know, poverty is on a high, and that didn't change yet, and will take years to change. You know, and
Right.
but I think he got a lot of supporters as well too
That's
that
good.
know that what was happening doesn't work. You know,
What about Brazil?
Brazil is like we like to say, Brazil is not for beginners.
Yeah.
So we
I,
just had municipal elections in Brazil, and the party that won the majority of seats in the mayoral elections is a new party with a guy that most of people don't know. You know, I know because he was the mayor of São Paulo at some point, Kassab, and he it seems that he's the big winner of these elections, and the popularity of the Workers' Party is getting lower. But I mean, historically they have been good for business, the Workers' Party, and Lula especially. It was a commodities boom in Brazil in his
right.
first term, and and Brazil was a big topic. And now he's not so lucky this time, you know. So maybe they won't be able to stay uh, continue like this. But I think there's still 2 years left.
So do you think there's a swing to the right there?
Well, there was, and now it's centrist. I feel
Okay.
it's more of the what we say is the old Brazilian politics where everything gets negotiated to the center. You know, which
Right.
is usually actually good for business, isn't it? To have like a moderate center kind of approach, and yeah, I'm optimistic with Brazil, but not too much. That's the
Okay.
bottom line.
Are you more optimistic on commodities?
Well, commodities, I think they are underpriced. Yeah, most
Yeah, I
commodities are
agree.
underpriced. I think.
Yeah. You
Uh,
know, I was talking with someone yesterday about the dollar, and as you mentioned, the dollar compared to other currencies is undervalued. But when you compare the dollar to some of these commodities, especially the metals,
hmm.
the dollars are very weak compared to gold. The dollar is very weak compared to silver. And I think if you look at some of the agriculture products, maybe the same as well.
Yeah, this is an analysis I recommend everyone to do before they trade. Is what's the everybody likes looking at charts, especially you know like well technical analysis and looking at candlesticks and but try to plot these in terms of gold. You know? How did the S&P fare against the gold? How
Right.
did this stock fare against the gold? You know, and you will be surprised how flat everything was over the last years. You know,
Right. Right. So it's not the dollar.
yeah, like oh, the
Yeah.
stock won 50%. Well, measure in
Yeah.
gold, see what happened.
Right.
You know,
That's exactly. Exactly. What is it strong against and what is it weak against? And
yeah,
gold is certainly, and Bitcoin too. Bitcoin's now up to 71,000 again today. So you look at, I'm sure if you chart
really,
those same charts against BTC, you'll get similar outcomes, right?
yeah, yeah. That that is a difficult one to price the future of. You know, but yeah, it's
Yeah, I think you have to have some in your portfolio. You have to have some digital currencies in your portfolio. Maybe not Bitcoin, but if you have a small array, just to be safe, because you never know. You never know. I think there's going to be some opportunities, bigger opportunities longer term.
yeah, diversified approach is
Yeah, but I'm a big believer in an up move in commodities going into next year and beyond. That's the inflation trade. You know, what do you think about? I spend a lot of time talking about the yield curve, and with all of this issuance that's going to go on, I can't see longer term rates, bond rates staying where they are. Even if the Fed continues to cut, you know, make the analogy, it's like stepping on a rake where the back end goes up, the front end comes down. And we've certainly seen that when the Fed cut the last time. Fed funds are down 50%, 50
yeah.
basis points. and the 20-year, 10-year is up a similar number. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the inflation expectations I was talking about, especially now in election time. Yeah. I think people are expecting more inflation with Trump. That's what I've been hearing. Just because of the tariffs, that can be highly inflationary.
Why? Explain that.
Well, if you, uh, I don't know exactly how much of products that Americans consume are imported, or components of these products are imported, but it's a lot for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
From computers, from phones to medicine, there's a wide range of imported components. And if you raise tariffs on that, on the long
So that
term, there is substitution. Right? In the long term, you are helping the American producers to switch and start producing themselves this. But on the short term, this is inflationary.
yeah, and until those foreign companies start building plants and processing here, right? So maybe that's a year or two. So you think that's possible? You think that's viable? If the U.S. becomes more pro-business, especially foreign business, as long as they're doing it here, it's not taxed and tariffed.
For sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Texas has been very doing very well, right, in attracting new business, and Florida is still when you compare around the world, what's the best place to do business and to start your business? I think it's no doubt that America is still at the top. But one thing I wanted to show you, it's maybe we can share with your audience, is what the market thinks of interest rates. I think that's
Yeah.
yeah. So there is a is there a way of sharing my screen here?
It might be at the bottom.
Oh yeah,
Share screens, share presentation. Can you do that?
yeah.
Okay.
So this is actually a free tool offered by CME Group,
Hmm.
which you can. Let me get here. Sorry, this is not one. Is the Fed Watch tool? Have you used it before?
I have not. No.
So Fed Watch tool, just Google that. This is a free software provided by CME and QuickStrike, which it uses options, implicit volatility to give you probabilities of rate hikes and the shape of the yield curve that is implied by the futures. Right? So, and then you can see like what's the target. So 96% likely that the target will be 450 to 475 as current. So essentially no change. And then you can filter other dates, like, okay, what about December? Is it going to lower 25 basis points? Yeah, that's what 70% think about.
Right.
30% believes it stays flat, and then we go to January, and you have all the
And these are Fed. This is Fed funds.
yes,
This
this is
is the
based on
Fed
Fed.
overnight rate,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. Now here we have where is it? Then you have the matrix of probabilities. It's something really nice to,
Quick strike. I got to look at that. Very interesting.
yeah, a Fed Watch tool from QuickStrike.
Mhm.
It's free,
Okay.
and if you use these measures to price FX futures, and this is what I use actually. So one of the components of what I do involves taking the market expectations to price uh, affects futures, because whatever you think or I think, in the end, we can be right or wrong. Most likely wrong. You know?
If you're
But
around long enough, that's certainly the case, right?
yeah, but the market empires. It's what the market says, and if you use this, you are more likely, I think, to be successful in your expectations. Just to
Hmm.
back in my research analyst days, I used to model stocks and recommend a price and so on. And then my boss would just like look at the consensus, see how far I was, and just like no, no, no. She just put my report in the middle of the consensus.
That's right. That's right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah,
Find out what everybody else is thinking. Yeah.
yeah,
There's certain times where you can make or break your career. You could go, as the old joke, the hill to die on. Is that the hill that
right.
you want to die on? Yeah.
Yeah, don't be too aggressive or whatever. It's just like
Right.
believe the consensus, and you're most likely right.
That's right. Unless you've got a strong opinion and that's the hill you want to die on, then you could go out and be on the outer, the wings. To
So
see.
yeah, the rate probabilities reflect inflation expectation, and as you saw, it's like 60-30. 60
Hmm.
that inflation will be more under control, 25 bases will be taken off, 30% that by December nothing, actually inflation is worse than expected or the same, and rates stay the same.
I don't see how we get inflation under control over the next 2 years. I I don't see how it's possible. When Volcker, I was in the market, my first house, my mortgage was 18% in September of 1981. We didn't have the debt. We didn't need to. We didn't have to finance the debt that we do now. And now the financing of the U.S.
Mm.
debt is more than a defense budget. So, you know, Powell, even if he wanted to, and he raised rates from 0 to 5%, which was a huge undertaking, but to really fight where real inflation is, to get rates up to 10 and 12%, the government would be crippled. So I
Mm.
don't see, just from a layman's perspective, I don't see how that happens. We're going to continue to borrow, we're going to continue to spend. Well, I don't know how it ends. You can kick the can down the road for so long. It's been 40 years now that we've been kicking this can down the road, and I don't see any hope to change it unless we can
Yeah,
grow our way out.
yeah.
People talk about when Clinton was president and Robert Rubin was the Treasury Secretary, that we had balanced budgets and we lowered the deficit, but all he did was really short fund it instead of pushing all of those debts out 20%, 20 years, 30 years and pay higher debt, he moved it up. So once that all of that debt came due, he had to do it again. And now it was much bigger and much bigger. It was just playing with the numbers. So
Yeah, and that's still going on, I think, and unfortunately, we are leaving this to next generations, and nobody's really attacking that particular problem because it's none of political interest for anyone to do this,
right, right.
and debt levels here are beyond 100% as well, and, of the GDP. It's higher than in war times.
Right.
And and this is there is a group I'm a member here called the Institute of Directors, and there is a poll every time, like say like, oh, what do you think about where the economy is going, and everybody's as well is worried about the debt. And one of the points I saw being raised is like, okay, what if war is real and comes here? What if there is World War III. Where that's going to be. Like where tax is going to be if it's already so high. You know. Yeah.
Scary thoughts, considering we're on the verge in a couple of different spots around the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scary thoughts. Well,
So, but business is growing. I think all over the world. I think we are in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution with AI. And maybe there is a smart way around this. Let's see.
but you mentioned AI. Ultimately, that's going to eliminate a lot of physical jobs, right? I know
Maybe.
people are going to have to retool again.
Yeah, I see this. We are certainly incorporating a lot of AI on our end, on
Hmm.
every algorithm, every platform, predictive analytics using AI. I think everybody needs to incorporate as fast as possible. I think university as well. The first they started fighting AI because of copyright and everything. Now they are guiding their students on how to use it effectively, so you don't steal anyone's ideas, but still can improve your research.
I know you were a big supporter. You're the first person that really introduced me to ChatGPT, and that was about 2 years ago, right? You were the first person that I met that was
I
really
heard
an avid
about
user,
that.
and said I would be happy to pay for it. This is
It's
one of the early
incredible.
stages. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's great.
I don't know if you have tested the new O1 preview model there. It's you can choose like ChatGPT 4 and O1. It's O1 for science and maths. It's wonderful. It's wrong a lot of times still. I have to double check everything I do there, but the speed that you can improve knowledge, improve your reports, and do stuff.
It's
It's
going to have a huge impact in the medical world
in
for sure.
science in general. I think there's a lot coming out from that because research that used to take years will take months, if not less. And I
Yeah.
think yeah, we should not underestimate the fourth industrial revolution. I would say.
Hmm. So that's Biden the video, right?
Well,
Yeah,
everyone else is.
that's right. That's the
I think the
consensus.
big question is, well, who else beyond
Yeah.
Nvidia?
Find the
It's
second wave. Yeah. Yeah. But when I think about that, I always remember I read somewhere a guy said when the internet first came out, we never had the idea that your refrigerator was going to be connected to the internet and you're going to be able to watch it. Your everything in your home would be internet capable. We never thought that was possible. So we don't even know what's possible
no,
with
no,
AI right now. We're just starting to scratch the surface. So yeah, it's true.
yeah, yeah.
All right, Al. I do appreciate you coming on. We'll certainly do this again. I think it was informative, interesting. You always great to hear from you. And you wrote another book, right? You want to put that up?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, this is it's uh,
Systematic trading, right?
systematic trading official guide to the CFST exam. So the CFST exam is an exam covering many things about derivatives. So if you learn this book, you will learn about derivatives compliance, which is probably the most boring topic of the book, but also uh, you know effects, spot, futures, forwards, pricing, risk, everything we talk about, yield curve, Phillips curve. It covers all the essential things you need to work in the derivatives industry. And this is what is the exam is for us to recruit professionals for derivatives.
Hmm.
And but anyone with basic maths and English can join and study the program. So here's the book. Go to catalystfutures.com and check it out.
CatalystFutures.com. If anybody reading this wants to get a hold of it and can't get it, reach out to me and I'll make sure you can get a copy. But thanks again, Al, it's been a pleasure, always a pleasure to chat with you, and we will do this again soon. Take
Thank you very
care, Mike.
much. Nice to speak to you, Fred.
Thanks.